Everywhere, Adam Hewison here, co-founder of MarketClub, with your video exchange for the 15th of June. It's a Friday. So let's take a look at what my predictions are for the Greek elections this weekend. This is a big weekend. There's going to be a lot of nervousness in the market later on today when traders have to square up. But no matter what happens this weekend, it's not going to be good for Greece. Either one, they have a complete election stalemate, which means kicking the can down the road again, which will not be good. Or two, the Greeks vote to reject austerity, which means disaster. Ask yourself this question: who in their right mind would vote to have something taken away from them? It's against human nature. So let's take a look at the market, starting with the S&P 500. And you can see this is a daily chart. We have a plus 70. Our weekly is turned up. Only the monthly longer term is in place. Now let's take a look at where we are right now. We're trading currently around 1334. I think we're probably getting to the point now where, depending on where we close, I would say if we make a new high close, let's say over today's high, which would be 1338, I think probably that's the way people want to go home for the weekend. But nonetheless, I think it's still a lot of nervousness, like yesterday when they announced prematurely. I don't think it was a good announcement, but the market just shot up over 100 points in just a matter of minutes. That was on the Dow. But same thing happened on the S&P 500. Now, the follow-through today, not so robust. I still think I would not be surprised to see the market come down. I say if we close below 1329, which would mean we're making new lows on the day, because the low today was 1329, I would say that would not necessarily be a good sign. It would portend to this being a very important resistance level. So let's see how that plays out. But nonetheless, it looks as though you've got a sort of an uptrend here. Well, this is how we see it very quickly. It's sort of you've got an uptrend line from here, and you've got some resistance starting from, let's say, right around these levels. So this is going to be a very crucial area for it to get through. I think the previous high was around 37. I think that's we mentioned that yesterday. So it has to really close. I think it really has to close up over 1340, which would be a big close. Or if it closes below 1329, I think this is going to be a high for a moment. But nonetheless, the monthly are still negative. Only the weekly here and the daily are showing the short term is up, and we have a plus 70, meaning we're maybe going into an uptrend. It's too early to tell, but we are overbought here on the Williams percent R. And that's been pretty good for the moment. We are in a longer-term downtrend, so let's see how that plays out. Let's clear the screen. And I'm going to quickly go through the Dow and the Nasdaq. If you look at the Nasdaq, this is the next one coming up, you can see it's not that, it hasn't cleared this resistance level like the S&P 500, so that leaves me a little bit concerned about that. On the Dow, which has been actually performing probably the best out of all the indexes, you can see that's also coming back a little bit, just zipped over this level here. I think there on the Dow at 1265, I would say 12702. That's where it's currently trading, but I think the low is 1265 today. I see if we see another 50 points lower, starting to make new lows later in the day, I think that's a little bit of a concern. The other thing I'd be looking at right now would be the Williams percent R, because we've made a new high here. You can see that, but we haven't made a new high yet in the Williams percent R. There's the previous high. We've made it, so you look at this right now, it looks like it's just sort of going this way as opposed to that way. So I'm a little bit suspect, and I think a lot of traders are going to be very suspect later in the day. And the question is, do you want to go home long this market? And I think that's the question on everyone's lips. You have another second half of the year to trade the market. You don't have to trade it this weekend. So let's clear the screen and look at our next market. And these, excuse me, these markets are really very interesting right now, because what they're doing is basically, if we go to the next market, which of course is going to be silver, and look at silver. Silver has not reacted to this crisis at all. I mean, the crisis has become so long, going on for so long, 2 years, and nothing has really changed. So I think that's the bottom line. We've just sort of got this sort of just a very simple kind of sideways action here. Nothing, no dramatic things, but longer term, negative. Shorter term, the daily was turned down yesterday rather, and only the weekly is up right here. So let's see how that plays out. But pretty much the same picture in the gold market, and that's what we want to look at right now. So let's just go to the gold market. And the gold market, you can see it had a little bit let me just turn this, take that off. But you can see where we are in the gold market. Just looking at some of the tools we have here, you can see that we're once again in an overbought condition. We can stay in that time period like we did here, but nonetheless we are in an overbought condition. It looks as though we're setting up a harami cross or doji. We'll have to see how that plays out later today, but we've had several days up. This is the fourth day up, and we're actually at an area. So we think the 1640 level and 1630 area is going to be resistance for this market for the moment, but we have to wait until we see what happens. Obviously, it agrees. Longer term, we've got our monthly down. The weekly is turned up. That's the intermediate term traders, and the short term is up. So both of these are pluses here, but it gives you a 60, which means gold is in a trading range right now. And that's the important thing to remember. It's no reason to get excited about on the upside. I'd rather, be honest with you, I'd rather buy this market at 1700, knowing that there's got a much better chance of going higher than try to buy it right here, because I think this could be a very, very treacherous time period. So let's see what happens. A move, I think, below 1620 or a close below 1620 would not augur well for this market. So let's clear the screen, go to our next market, and that's going to be copper. And copper is still in this flat zone. If you look at basically from June 3rd rather, you've just gone sideways. Really nothing going on in that market at all. So kind of a little bit disappointing. We're up towards an overbought condition, but nonetheless still not looking that great. Now going to the next market, crude oil. Now the biggest thing we're looking at here is crude oil is still, in our opinion, still in a downward trend. You can see just visually how this is going. But you've got your monthly right here and your weekly right here, and they're both indicating lower prices. Now the big thing to me is this weekend there's an election in Egypt. It's been overshadowed largely by the Greek election, but the ramifications for the Middle East are far greater in many ways and respects than what's going on in Europe. So we'll have to see how that plays out, but that's another story that has yet to be written. So here we go. We have to look and see how we closed last week. I think we closed. Let's just take a quick look at a weekly chart here, and I think that's let's clear the screen and get a weekly. Easy to do on MarketClub. Click here, and you can see we closed last Friday at 84.07. We're 83.75. The market's lower for the week. I think that's pretty telling. You've got a minus 85 signal, and I think we're in a downtrend. You can see we've had all these weeks down, and it hasn't improved yet. So let's go back to the next market. That's the Eurodollar. Now the Eurodollar has closed higher. This is a weekly chart. The Eurodollar is closing higher. However, looking at the daily charts, you're up against resistance right around these levels right here. You can see pretty much where we are. Again, I think if we close below 126, I think that's not going to be necessarily a good sign. But nonetheless, the market is doing two things. You're seeing one, we're very heavily overbought, like here. Not to say it can't go higher, but this is definitely an area that I think you want to look at. Generally speaking, monthly and weekly down, which means a strong downtrend. And even though we got a 55 here indicating the trading range, it still is an indicator to me that the longer term trend based on our weekly and monthly are still negative. So let's see how that plays out. Again, everything's going to be predicated on what happens over the weekend with the elections, and it's like catching a knife here. If you don't have to trade, there's no reason to trade. So let's clear the screen off. Go to our next. Well, here's a good example. If you didn't know there's a Greek election, you just looked at the markets, and this is what the trade triangles do, and they help you show you what to do. So if you didn't know what was going on in the Middle East, you didn't know what was going on in Europe, and you just simply had the signals that we have them right here. There's the last signal, 129.95. You'd still be making money. So sometimes it pays just to go with the flow or go with the trade triangles and not worry about the news. So let's clear the screen, go to our next market. And the next market we're looking at is the Reuters-Jefferies CRB Index. Again, this is not looking that great. Looking at a weekly chart, you can see we're going to be actually lower for the week. We closed last week at 372.88. We're 372.06. Minor changes, but nonetheless, it's a deflationary cycle that we're in here in commodity prices or raw materials. So that to me is not necessarily indicative of a strong economy, but you can see the trend has clearly gone down. We're looking for this market to go to 250 on the index, so we'll see how that works out. But clearly, we need to see some more closes below 270 to get that going. Hey, there's a lot going on this weekend. I'm sure you're all going to be glued to your television sets and the web and listening for the latest news. But what you may want to do is give us a call. Maybe today you could do that for one-on-one personal Market Club coaching. This is the most important time, I think, to look at your own trading skills. Do you want to improve your trading skills? And if you do, Market Club coaching can help you. Just one-on-one, you have your own private coach, and find out if it's right for you. It's a free consultation and a free telephone call. You've got nothing to lose. So give us a call at 877-219-1482. Look forward to talking to you. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great trading day, and let's see what happens on the weekend with the Greek elections and the Egyptian elections. I'm Adam Hewison for Market Club. I'll see you next week.